Yes. Okay. Suppose if you consider human as the class, right? Properties are name, age, gender, and city. Correct? And what are the methods that we have? Walk, sleep, speaking. So neat explanation you will find here. Then this person is the instance of the class, right? The collection of data and methods that access the data is refers to as object. So when you keep going, how to define the class, right? What is the importance of init method, which we discussed in the last session, right? With the code explanation, you will find the neat explanation here, how to create the class. So here, this is a human class. This is attribute belonging to the human. Then we are creating the object of the human class X and Y with the data, name, age, and gender. Then we are initializing them. So I want everyone to go through this. If at all you miss the class, or later on if you want to refer the content, a lot of textbooks you will find in the online, but you need to identify which one through which you can understand the concepts easily and get the interest in solving the problems. So here you don't have much explanation, but you have a code along with the output with minimal explanation. So I felt this is very good for the beginner level. And we know that the core ideas: inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, and abstraction. So along with that explanation, how to create inheritance, the everyone. So all these things I will explain. I have my own examples, but along with that, you can refer this textbook. This is only for object oriented, okay? And don't get confused. This is not for everything. This is just for object oriented content. You have this much explanation. So a lot of techniques are there in the object oriented techniques. So you can refer this. So here you have exercise. That is the most important here. A lot of examples they have given in this textbook. I will try to see if there is any other textbook which you can understand the concept easily. So there is one more textbook which I have. But they are a little bit advanced actually. These kind of textbooks, it is very difficult to learn actually. I'll check and upload the textbooks for a future reference. I have some 4 to 5 textbooks actually. I have to check where I have stored them. Anyway, no problem. So time being, for the next 1 week, you can refer this textbook. I will upload after the session. This file size is very big actually. Okay. I think in the last class we spoke about different types of concepts related to object-oriented programming, constructor, destructor, how to create object, right? How to create method, a lot of things we studied. So continuing with that, so now today we are going to cover most important topics in related with the OOPS concept, that is inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, right? And method overloading and overriding. So as I told in the last class, inheritance means accessing the properties and the data related to the other class without implementing in your own class, right? So child class acquires the properties of, can access all the data members of the function defined in the parent class. So a lot of terminologies they will use. Either you can call it as a base class or a derived class. So derived class is nothing but a child class. Base class is nothing but a parent class. Okay. So how to create a inheritance, right? The keyword that you need to use is class only, and this is the parent class. Parent class has its own method, and this is called as a derived class. All-rounder is a derived class, and here we have to attach the parent class name. We have to pass the parameter of the parent class name. So all-rounder is a base class, cricketer is a parent class. Now both of them have their own methods. Parent class has cricketer batting method, and all-rounder has a method called as bowling. Now what we are doing in this line, so as you remember in the last class, this line creates object, right? It creates object of the class. So can anyone tell me which object we are creating? Are we creating the object of the parent class or child class in this line? What we are doing in this line? And are we passing any parameter? Child class. Okay. So we are just initializing the object of the child class, right? D is the name of the child object. But as you observe here, we are able to access the method of the child class itself. Along with that, we are able to access the method of parent class also using child class. So here the batting method is not implemented by the all-rounder class, but still this child object D can access the batting method from the parent class, correct? So this is called as inheritance, right? Inheritance. So inheritance means accessing the properties, methods, variables defined in the derived class. I'm derived in the base class or parent class. So here all-rounder is also called as derived class or child class. You can use any terminology. This is the importance of the inheritance. So why we need to do this is the question that you will get. This will take a lot of, this will help us in reusability. Reusability. This is the most important feature. Reusability means this particular batting class can be implemented by any number of the subclasses, right? So I need not to define this batting class every time I create the new class. I can directly fetch it from the cricketer class, right? So the main, yes, the main objective of the inheritance is to create reusability. And as you observe the syntax, you can see you can implement inheritance with multiple classes. Multiple classes means you can inherit the data or features from multiple parent classes. For example, this is a cricketer. You can assume that this is the main class, parent class, and you can inherit one more property from the another existing class. I will show you. That is called as multiple inheritance. Okay, multiple inheritance. So what do you mean by multiple inheritance? In simple terms, I'll tell you. Suppose you as a child, you guys as a child, you have some of the features from your parents, right? Your dad, for example. Along with your dad, you have some of the most similar features from your grandparents, right? So you are acting as a derived class now, but you are not only having the features of your parents, you are also having the similar features of your grandparents. That is called as multiple inheritance. So borrowing the features or the data from the multiple levels, multiple classes. That is called as multiple inheritance. So in this example, we have only done single inheritance. So level of inheritance are there, which you will learn in detail in the coming semesters. There are a variety of inheritances, but most importantly, single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance is also there. So you'll see them all of them one by one. So if I execute this class, first I'm printing this data, then I'm accessing this data. But my next question is, I will create one more object, for example, and create cricketer object. Then I will write C dot bowling. So can anyone tell me or predict the output in this case? Please check and predict the output. What will be the changes? I will delete this one now, and I'll make this a c dot padding, and I will delete this also. Now whose object we have created? We have created the object of parent class. We are calling the bowling method and batting method from the object of the parent class. Will this print the output is my question. Think and answer. What is the output of this code? Anyone? Only batting as output. Error message. It gives error. Okay. So some people told error message, some people told only batting as the answer. So please understand the errors. What is error we are getting? Attribute error. Cricketer object has no attribute called as bowling. Cricketer object has no attribute called as bowling. So this is a very important mistakes that you will do in the initial cases because newly you are learning this concept. So what is not allowed? Can anyone tell me? What does it tell you? What is the meaning of this? What I was trying to do? Suppose I'll remove this bowling, c dot bowling. Now am I getting the output? I'm getting the output as right-handed batsman. But when I say c dot bowling, I'm getting this error message. Cricketer object has no attribute called as bowling. So please understand this error. So what does it mean? What does it mean? You cannot access child class methods from parent class. Correct? So this is not allowed. Accessing child class from parent class is not possible. Yes. Good, Rohit. Bowling is in all-rounder class. Yeah. So what do you mean by inheritance is only child class can access the data from the parent class, but reverse access is not possible. The parent class cannot access the data from the child class. So this is not allowed. This is not allowed. This is allowed. Child class can access the data from parent class. Parent class cannot access the data from child class. So sometimes we get these kind of doubts initially because both of them are having related. So it is just like this. You can borrow the properties from your parents, right? Sir, if you pass child class name as no, that is also not works. So you try this one, okay? I'm giving the examples, right? All these things you type and check it. Generally, it is not allowed. Okay. So it is like this. You can have the features of your parent from your parent genes, right? But you cannot have your parents cannot have your features. You have your own features, right? So reverse process is not allowed. So you can only borrow from the person, right? That is the thing which we need to understand in inheritance. So a class can also inherit multiple classes by mentioning all of them inside the bracket. So you can mention one by one. Oh, I have added this question. Okay, this is not inheritance, but this is a simple program. So what we are doing here is we have a class called as C and the function called as double. Here we are creating a parameterized constructor passing 5. Then we are printing x plus 2. This one is returning self into 2. It's a basic question actually. Yeah. So that is the concept of single level inheritance. Hope everyone understood this one. How to create single level inheritance? Main class, child class, mention in the bracket, the main class name, colon, and you can implement your own methods. This data you can borrow from the child class. Then the next one, what we have is multi-level inheritance. Okay, multi-level inheritance. Now observe here. multi-level. It is not multiple, multi-level. So please understand this one. We have the same class called as cricketer. We have all-rounder class, which is borrowing, which is inheriting cricketer class. Then there is one more class called as volleyball. But this particular person, this particular class is inheriting properties from all-rounder class. Correct? So this is called as multi-level inheritance. Okay. Now, which object we are creating? We are creating the object of this particular class volleyball, right? Then volleyball has its own method called as shooter. Then it has its, since it is implementing all-rounder, it is inheriting properties of the all-rounder class. We can access all-rounder classes method. But what else you can observe is what I'm doing here. This batting method belongs to whom? It belongs to cricketer class. Now there is a 3 level of inheritance here. Volleyball can access properties of all-rounder also, and it can access properties of cricketer also. But though it has not inherited cricketer class directly, it is going indirectly through all-rounder. Correct? From all-rounder, it is going through the batting part. So this is called as multi-level inheritance. So it need not to inheritance the main function or the main parent class. You can indirectly go through the another child class. So this child class is acting as a parent class for this particular class, and this is a child class for the cricketer. This is called as multi-level inheritance. Okay. Any doubt in this? So I'm explaining most simple way so that everyone understands or gets the interest to solve these kind of problems. When I add questions in a model, you will see it's a little bit advanced questions you will see. But in the beginning level, I'm explaining most basic things so that these concepts will get a clarity, right? So we don't have any meaning by doing this, but in real time, we have a lot of applications like in banking terms, in student employee data management, a lot of things we can implement using these kind of classes. Okay. So first level, and this is second level. That's why it is called as multi-level. Now, if I say, can I access again, if I say C equal to all-rounder, then I'll say C dot shooter. Again, this also gives you error. All-rounder object has no attribute called a shooter. So in this case also, you can't access the data from volleyball through the all-rounder, right? So that hierarchy has to be followed properly. And here, why I'm passing the parameter here? Because the batting method accepts a name here. So you have to be very careful what you are doing in the function. In the previous case, we didn't have any parameter. This batting method is accepting without any parameter. In this case, we are accepting name parameter and printing that particular data. Okay. So what does it signify? A single object has all the properties. This particular object plays volleyball also. This particular object plays cricket also. And in that cricket, that particular object is all-rounder also. So you can understand in that way. But I need not to write or implement all of them in the same function. Depending upon the requirement, I can call them. Correct? This is the advantage of OOPS concept, right? I need not to make that this particular function should be available in all the projects. Only based on the requirement, I will do the inheritance and fetch the data from this particular classes. This is called as multi-level inheritance. Next type is multiple inheritance. So 3 types of inheritance, please note down. Single inheritance, multi-level, and multiple inheritance. So as I told you, you can inherit data from 2 parent classes at a time. So here we are doing arithmetic operation using multiple inheritance. So you can see there is a main class called as calculation, and there is a function called as summation, accepting 2 parameters. We are returning a plus b. There is another class called as calculation 2. which is performing only multiplication. Now we created the derived class. Derived classes two parent classes. One is calculation one and another is calculation two. Now it is accessing the properties of this class also and this class also, right? And it has its own class called as divide, own method called as divide. Here we are creating the object of the derived class. Then how we are calling this function? D dot method name followed by the parameters. So how many parameters we are accepting, that many values we are passing. So this is called as multiple inheritance. Multiple means you are inheriting the features from more than one parent class, whereas multi-level means each of them are derived from individual subclasses in a hierarchical level. So in real time, when you are doing a lot of such inheritances, there is a feature in Python to check whether we are doing proper inheritance or not. So the name of that function is called as subclass, right? We are checking whether this derived the subclass of calculation 2. So what is the answer we are getting? True here. Suppose if I say I will remove this calculation 2, I'll put only calculation 1. We'll comment line all of this. Now you see what is the error message I'm getting, or the output I'm getting as false. Why I'm getting false in this case? Because this derived is not subclass of calculation 2. So it is subclass of only calculation 1 because I have mentioned only one parent. The parent class name is calculation 1. The calculation 2 is not related to this derived class. So to verify whether we have done proper inheritance or not, we can check whether true or false condition using this particular subclass function. Any doubt in this? Multiple and multi-level and single inheritance. These are three types of inheritances. Okay. Next, we have all of them are related to the inheritance concepts only. Only when you have inheritance, you can do these things. So method overriding and method overloading are part of inheritance only. These two are, you can say, functions of or applications, you can say, applications of inheritance. So method overriding and method overloading are applications of inheritance. So to understand what is method overriding and overloading, you can check this simple example, right? So we have method overriding example here. So we have a parent class called as bank, correct? And it has its own function called as get ROI. So ROI means rate of interest. And I am telling that return 10 if anyone calls this function. That is 10 is the rate of interest for the bank overall. Now there is a subclass or the child class called as SBI, which is accessing this particular feature. Now what is the common in both the things? Please observe and tell me. Understand the concept. The concept is what? Method overriding or function overriding, you can say. What is common in all this, in these two? Don't tell me class is common, df is common, return is common. Apart from that, what is common? Obviously, it is doing inheritance, right? SBI Bank is inheriting the properties of the main bank. Or you can make this as a RBI. Okay, you can change this as RBI. Yeah. Get ROI. Yeah. So what is common to this function, this class and this class? The name of the function is common. Correct? In previous examples, you see each of the class have their own functions. Here we have a summation function, here we have a multiplication function. They are individual and they are unique. But in this case, what is the name of the functions we have? Exactly same as the main bank function. So here the main bank has the function called as get ROI. But what is the value it is returning? It is returning 10. Now with the help of inheritance, we are understanding what is method overriding. correct? Override. Generally, what do you mean by override? There is some file already. You use that file, update that file, and store the file as a new file, correct? So it is like you update your apps, right? You have installed the apps already, but you got update notification. You will click on the update. It will just do the update part. It won't install every time newly, correct? That is called as overriding. So the advantage of this is you need not to create multiple functions with a different name and get confused when you have a big projects. The single function name you can use in the entire project with the same name as the parent class, and but the implementation will be different, right? So what is the definition of the method overriding? Same function name, same parameters, implementation is different. Implementation is different. That is called as method overriding. What is the implementation I'm talking about in these cases? This particular function is returning 10 as the value, whereas this one is returning 7 as the value. So the return value is different, right? Then it is called as method overriding. Suppose in this also you're returning 10, then no need of this method overriding concept. This is the simplest example I'm telling you. Suppose say for example, I will provide you some money. I will tell you that use this money and return the profit based on your capability, I will say. The money that I'm providing is same for two people, right? For first person also I'm providing, for example, 100 rupees. For second person also I'm providing 100 rupees. So the money is same, but how much they are contributing, how much they are making it work to get the more profit, the implementation can be different, right? You can invest that in, somebody can invest that in stock, this 100 rupees, and after 2 months they will return me 500. And this person will put that as a FD, he will get only return of 200. So you see that money that they borrowed is same from me, but the return value is different. Here I'm getting 500, here I'm getting 200. So that is the implementation part you need to understand. So when you do the method overriding, you can use the same name of the parent class, but the output should be different, or the implementation should be different. Like this, we have one more class called as ICICI. It is also implementing this rate of interest from the bank class, but the return value is 8 here, correct? So each of them are having their own individual return values. So this is allowed. So B1, B2, and B3, then we are accessing the rate of interest. What is common for all of them? The function name is common. So I need not to worry about creating the different function name every time. This is called as method overriding. So it solves the main problem of creating individual functions for individual objects. So that hectic work will be avoided with the help of method overriding. Okay, so method overriding is simplest concept where you are having a method in the main function, main class, and the derived class will use the same function as it is with the same parameters, but do the different implementation. Then there is a concept of data abstraction. So what is data abstraction? You know already. What is data abstraction? Hiding important details and showing necessary data only. Or you can say secured access. You can give the secured access only with some kind of logic. Direct access of data is not allowed in the case of OOPS. To do this, we are having the concept of data abstraction. So if you see this example, this particular employee has a variable called as count, and it has its own method. This is a constructor, and it is a function. EMP has a one object, and EMP2 has another object. See what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to print this count value. I'm trying to access this count value, which is present in employee class directly. Print emp.count. So what is the error message I'm getting? Employee object has no attribute. count. So this is called as data abstraction. This we have already saw in the previous example also here. Suppose in the multi-level inheritance, if I am trying to access data of volleyball class from all-rounder class, that is not allowed. That is also an example of data abstraction, you can say. Now, direct access of this count variable from the employee cost is not allowed. So how to access this employee variables from the objects? For that, you need to have your individual methods. So in this case, you see, emp.count, I am not accessing directly, but I'm accessing through the function. So I'm calling the function display, and in turn display has access to this particular object variable count. And how I'm accessing that? Using the class name. So this I've told, I think, in the last class itself. I'm just repeating the features of the OOPS. So this particular thing will help you to access the data securely. So what is the importance of this is, not all the objects have the direct access to this particular variable. Only with the help of method you can do it. Direct access will not be allowed, right? So it is like in Moodle, you are able to see the course only when I add you. Otherwise, you are able to see the course. For example, some courses are available. You can see a lot of courses are there, but you can only access the course that you are enrolled in. That is the data abstraction until there is a access to that particular course, right? But visibility is there. Now this particular object is part of the employee, but still it doesn't have access to this count. So it is like you all have access to the Moodle, but you can't have access to all the courses. You are accessing the courses only you are enrolled in. That is also you can consider as an example of abstraction. Then there is some inbuilt function called as ABC. Please note down this. From ABC, import ABC. There is a abstraction library is there in the Python compiler. That name of that library is ABC. Right? From ABC, import ABC. That is a function, inbuilt function. Now, what we are doing in this program, please understand. We are having a class called as polygon. See here, it is having the name as a parent class as ABC, right? It is accessing the features from ABC class, ABC library. So don't think this is an inheritance. There's a lot of difference. You can think like inheritance, but you can't do multiple things here. Okay. So in this particular class polygon, I have defined the function called as sides, and I've written just pass. So what do you mean by pass? A pass indicates a function or a class without any implementation. It is just a creation and we are keeping it as it is. Now, why we need to do this, you need to understand. Okay. Then we have multiple classes, as you can see. So here you can see we are combining inheritance and abstraction. Both the concepts we are combining in this code. So what we have done here is polygon is a class which is acting as an abstraction class because it is importing ABC class from the library. Then we have created our own classes, right? Now this is inheritance. Triangle is a child class. This polygon is a parent class, correct? Now this particular triangle class has its own method side, but what is again the difference? We are telling abstraction class can have the function, but it cannot implement anything. The implementation should be left to the individual classes. So individual classes are again accessing the data from this particular abstraction class, and they are implementing their separate way of implementation, right? Now, if you see, we are creating object of each class, right? Then we are calling that particular class. Suppose I will create object of this polygon class. So let me print something here also. Instead of pass, I will write something here. This is default class. Right? So you can also implement your own function inside this. But generally, when you are using the abstraction, you don't want to implement that particular method. You will leave the implementation to the child classes, right? This is the abstraction actually. Another example where you can leave the implementation part to the child classes, but it will just tell you what should be the structure of that particular function. You can tell you should implement side function without accepting any parameter and print some data in that, correct? So to understand this, I have another example here. A lot of examples we have. So we'll see one by one. Then there is a concept of abstract method. See here, it is a normal method. So there is no difference between this concept and method overriding, correct? This is same as method overriding, right? Polygon is having side class and we are implementing them in the derived class. You can consider this example is also as a method overriding. But now see here, in this example, what we are doing, there is an inbuilt again, one more inbuilt function called as abstract method, which you can import. We have a class called as abstract class. Then this line you can write externally. At symbol, abstract method, define abstract method self pass. Now when I'm trying to create the object of this abstract class, what is the error message I'm getting? Can't instantiate abstract class with abstract method. So the difference between the previous example and this example is here it is a normal method. Either you can leave it or you can implement it. So it don't give any error. But here what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create an object of abstract class. So this is not allowed. So please write and understand abstract method cannot be instantiated, or you cannot create object of abstract class when it has an abstract method. So both of them are valid answers, right? You cannot create an object of an abstract class when it has an abstract method. In the previous example, we didn't have an abstract method. It is a normal method. The name is sites. But in this case, we have an abstract method. Externally, we have specified. So when a class has the abstract methods externally specified like this, the only thing that you can do is leave that implementation to the child classes. You can't create the object of that particular abstract class. So this is not allowed. It's a very important question it is. Can you create an object of abstract class? The answer is yes, only when it doesn't have abstract method. If it has an abstract method, we can't create an object of abstract class. This will work only when you externally specify like this. When you specify from the library that I am having an abstract method in my class, then only it will show an error. Let me try to remove this and check. And this also I will remove. So now I'm not getting any error. Though this name can be anything. So don't get confused with the name. I'll make this name as suppose section A. So it won't show any error to me because I am not implementing any abstract method here. Now I will mention abstract method. It's the problem I faced. Okay. So what I should change here? This should be GRIET, right? So now what is the error I'm getting? Can't instantiate abstract class GRIET with abstract method section A. So this is not possible. Only when you externally specify like this. Then what is the need of this? Why we need to do these kind of things we need to do? So which you can understand from this example. Now in this example, we have abstract method, right? And we are not doing any implementation. Then there is a normal method. Now what we are doing here is we are creating one more class called as concrete class, which is implementing abstract class, inherit the properties from the abstract class. Now you see the function name is same here. This also is abstract method. Here also the name is abstract method, right? So what we are able to identify, understand using abstraction is, I will give you the planning, or you can say the structure. Implementation is left to you. It is like civil engineer giving blueprint, right? Blueprint of the house. Now who has to do the implementation? Who will do the implementation? You can say the Mestri will do the implementation. I don't know what you call in Telugu, but in generally in Kannada we call them as a Mestri, right? So Mestri will bring the people, how many people are required, how many days are required, right? All the construction work in practical will be done by the Mestri. But he will do only based on the data provided by the civil engineer, right? That is the importance of the abstraction. So abstraction method will tell you what is the data name, function name, what are the parameters that you need to do. The implementation is left to yourself, right? So in this case, we don't get any error because we are not trying to create object of abstract class. We are creating the object of the derived class, concrete class. Then we are calling the abstract method and normal method both. So it can, your function can have, your code can have abstract method also, it can have normal method also. Now that you understood this thing, so what is the error message I'm getting here? This is also abstraction only. Direct access is not allowed. I'm trying to print emp dot salary, where salary belongs to the employee class. So the only way to access this is use the another method and return that particular data through the method. Now, will this code show any error? This particular code. So I've given the exact instruction. This is the public data member. I'm telling you that this is a public data member because I'm sending this data through the object called constructor. Name can be considered as a public data member, but you can see what is this one? This is a private data member, right? Self dot underscore salary. Suppose I will initialize that salary to here. In this case, I am able to access it, or you don't send the data. You just send the name. Here I have to modify. This one I'll delete. So you can directly access the data from employee emp.show. What is the error we are getting? The name of the variable. So in this case, the salary I am fetching from the already existing data from the class, right? So that's why I'm getting 100 here. So I'm just passing the name to the function. So private members are accessible from the class directly with the help of method, and the way you are calling them is function name followed by the variable name. I mean the class name followed by the variable. So these are some of the topics that you need to know in inheritance. So what we understood till now, what is inheritance? What is multiple inheritance? Multi-level overriding, abstraction, right? So few more concepts are there along with a lot of examples I will be adding in the model. So once you solve real-time problems, you'll get to know the logical meaning of these things. So we have method overloading concept also, and polymorphism that I will discuss. But before that, going to those topics. So what you need to do tomorrow in the lab, that I will tell you. So I have added new questions. So please go through this. I have mentioned OOPS based programs. What is OOPS? Object oriented programming, right? So to solve these programs, you require this basic meaning of these things: object, class, methods, constructor, inheritance, and polymorphism. So hope all of you would have completed these programs. Anyone still wants to solve all the models? Because we last Sunday only is the deadline actually. Still we have enabled it, but in another 1 or 2 days, all the models will be closed. So please complete them. How many days you want, Pranavi? Okay. So I'll be adding another 2-3 programs here today only. So I'm just working on those programs actually. Right now I have created 3 questions which you can implement tomorrow. I will explain 1 or 2 programs, remaining you can do it. Okay. So see the question here. Write a Python program to create vehicle class with maximum speed and mileage instance attributes. Read the data from user and initialize. So it's a very simple code here. This will help you to understand the concept of object and what is object and class, how to initialize class using object, and importance of constructors. These things you will be able to understand with these simple codes. So what I want from you guys is create a vehicle class with 2 values. So can anyone tell me what kind of constructor I need to use for this? Should I use default constructor or parameterized constructor? So which one I should use? Because I want you to initialize 2 values. One is maximum speed and another is mileage. So obviously, when you create a object, what is that you will do? Parameterized constructor. Now what is that you will do? I am not mentioning directly from the creation of the object, right? For example, I'll create vehicle 1. Suppose v1 equal to vehicle. This will create the object, right? So now in that I want to pass the values. For example, I'll say that maximum speed is 200 and mileage is 67 or 55.5. This is the creation of the object, right? But what I'm telling is I don't want you to mention the values directly. I want you to read the data from the user and initialize. So simple thing. So see here, I'm showing you the implementation so that you get an idea how to implement these kind of programs. So what is that I asked you to do? Create a class called as vehicle, colon is mandatory. Now tell me what is this function? Can you call this as a constructor? Is it a constructor? I told in the last class, what is init method? What is init method? Can you call it as a default constructor? Is it a default constructor? Yes. Okay. So init method is acting like a default constructor, right? So obviously self parameter should be there, max speed should be there, mileage which I'm passing. But I asked you to read the data from the user. So obviously you need to convert the data into integer. 245 if I'm passing, this has to be converted to integer. Then this line, what it is doing, it is creating the object of the class. What is the object name? Model. Class name is vehicle. What are the two values I want to pass to this particular class? A and B, right? Then I'm initializing this max speed and mileage. Then when I'm accessing the data, how I'm accessing it? I'm accessing using the object, right? Model dot max speed and model dot mileage. So this is a simple creation of this program is helping you to understand how to create class and object and initialize. Very basic thing. This clarity you should have. So many people will use their brains to do this. What they will do for this program, just read the input and print the output. So if you do like that, you are only losing. You will not understand the concept of the object and class. So don't do that. Please implement only through the mentioned concept. You have to use the class and create the object. So don't directly print input is 140, output is 45 means two values you are reading from the screen and two values you are printing on the screen. So when you see the test case, it becomes very easy to implement like general printf method. So don't do that. Then I have one more question. What you need to do? Python program to create class representing circle. Now I want you to create a class called a circle and create own methods in that particular class called as area and perimeter. So you need to create the methods called as area and perimeter. Read the radius data from the user using any of the constructor, right? You can use parameterized constructor, default constructor, whatever you want to do, but you have to read the data from the user. So how to do this? Math is required to calculate the radius, area of the circle. So here what I want to read, radius value I want to read from the user. Obviously I need to convert it to float. Then what is this line is doing? It is creating object of the class circle. See, one thing that you can understand is the object name and the class name can be same. So there is no rule that you cannot give the same name. So you can give the same name for the object and the class, it will work. Then I'm calling this method. This is the initialization part, right? We are initializing the radius value. Then we are calling the circle area method through the object. What is my object? Circle dot circle area and perimeter function through the perimeter method we are calling. Then storing the return value in this area and perimeter. So it is returning the circle of area of circle and this is returning perimeter of the circle. So this part you know already mathematics. But how we are implementing methods and initialization part, you are able to understand through these basic programs, right? Now, if you understood those two things, then I have some little bit complicated logic that you need to do. So I want to see how you guys will implement this here. Now I want to have implement a very big project. I want you to create a shopping cart, right? The shopping cart can have list of item objects that represent the items in the shopping cart. A constructor that creates an empty list of item, the constructor should take no argument. So this condition I mentioned, you need to create empty list of items. So obviously you need to have a list which is empty. Then you need to create a method called as add that takes name and price and adds an item object with that name and price to the shopping cart. Then I need to create one more method called as total that takes no argument and returns the total cost of the items in the cart. So whatever you created using the add method, it has to fetch from that and create the total cost of the elements or items that you added in the cart. After doing this, I need to create one more method called as remove items, because sometimes I don't want to purchase that particular item. I want to remove that before going to the payment. Then method called remove items that takes item name and removes that particular item. So you have already added some item, right? That item you need to remove. It shouldn't return anything. So you just have to remove and say that the item has been removed. This is a very important method when you implement in real time. So what is that I've given here? A method called as str. So please understand and make note of this when you are using OOPS concepts and you are working on OOPS programs. So what is this importance of this method? Str method returns a string containing information on all items in the shopping cart. Okay, a string method is mandatory because you are creating the list storing multiple items which are having string data also, integer data also. So whenever you create an object in the OOPS concept and you want to fetch those data elements from the object, directly you cannot access them as a strings, right? So there is an inbuilt function called as string. I will just show you the implementation. Only that part I will show you. Remaining you can. Okay, so see here. So if you want, we can make a note of this, right? This has to be there in every project that you are doing based on OOPS concept, because you are storing a lot of data, name and price. In this case, you are storing. So we are returning, see, the name data and price data through the help of string, but we are not going to call the string every time. So who will call the string function? Print method. So what do you mean by this? So every time I'm trying to access this name and price from the item class, this particular string class will be called directly. Please understand this. I will explain once again, right? So string method is necessary to convert all these elements which are present in the class and access them inside print method. So basically it is converting the data that you are storing in the class as a string just for printing on the output screen. So this string method is implemented by default by the compiler through the print method. So you need not to call this function str every time. So who will call this function str? This particular print method whenever you are trying to print name and price from this particular item class. If anyone have any doubt in this, please ask me. What is the need of str function? As I told you, this has to be there in all the projects that you are going to implement. What is the need of str class and how to use that? Any doubt? Any doubt in this? Okay. Once you define all these things, then you need to create a shopping cart. These are the menu driven implementation that I want you guys to do. Menu driven program. That means one means insert element, insert item. 2 means, okay, I have not mentioned here clearly, but I will show you. I will show you the test case. So here you see the test case. One indicates adding element to the list, insert operation, and name of the item that I want to add. The item name is bread, and the price is 30 rupees. Then again, I'm entering one on the screen. Then item name I have to enter, price I have to enter. Again, one on the screen, item name, price. Now, what is 2? So 2 indicates total cost of the item. Total cost of the items. I want to print total cost of the items. Now, what is the price I have added? 20, 25, and 30. So what should be the output? For me, the output should be 75.0. Finally, I'm printing the output in the floating point format. Okay. 2 is the total cost of the element items in the cart, and 3 means delete, remove item. So I have to press 3 and I have to enter the name of the item that you already added. So 3 is the choice and milk is the name of the item I already added here. That should be removed. Then I should get on the output screen the messages item removed from the cart. 4 is the display operation, which you are already doing using menu driven. 4 is a display operation. After deleting, what are the elements left in the cart? So what are the elements left in the cart? I added bread, milk, and chocolate, but only bread and chocolate are left over in the cart. Correct. So this is the menu driven application that you need to do. So what is that change I need to do here is insert item, right? 2 means what? Find total cost. All items in the cart. These actually remove. So I just have to change. Remove the item based on item name. Fourth operation is what? View cart items. And what about fifth option? Exit. So you need to do this part. Implement menu driven Python program. So you have to remember what is the choice that I have given. 1 means insert item. 2 means find total cost of the items. 3 means remove the items based on item name. 4 is view cart items, and 5th is exit. Okay, I think test case is not added. So sample test case I will update. So generally when you execute, you will get all this one after the other item added to cart. But in the test case I have mentioned separately. The only reason is input and output has to be separated. For example, I'll execute this. So see what I'm adding. I have to first press 1, which indicates insert operation. For example, I'll say 10. Price is 10 rupees. So here you are getting the item added to cart immediately on the screen. But just to separate input and output, I mentioned here. So don't get confused. Then again, I'll press 1. I'll say chocolate. Price I will enter. So what is the message I should get? Item added to cart. Then again, 1 I'll press. Right. Now I'll press 2. So it has to print total cost of the items, right? So I had 10, 30, and 20. I have to get 60 on the screen. Then 3 means a remove operation. I want to remove So I press 3 and it is waiting for me to enter the name. So let me enter the name as pen. So item has removed from the cart. Now you can verify that data, whether it is deleted or not. So pen has been deleted and the remaining elements data is presented. So this is the menu driven application that you need to develop. So this entire thing I have done it using class. So just one or two examples I'll show you. So how many classes I need to have here? Two classes. One is class item to initialize these data and return these values. And another is shopping cart class, right? This will initialize all the items as an empty list. Then I'm calling this add method from the menu based on the choice by passing two names, two data, name and price data. See what I'm doing here. Can anyone tell me what is this line doing? So we are creating the object of item class inside the shopping cart class with the two values we are passing. Then we are appending the data into the list. Self dot items dot append. So basically, this is creating an object, and that object data I am appending into this particular list, right? Self dot items dot append. So again, this one, name and price data I am fetching from item class, correct? Then similarly, total I am fetching some item dot price for item in select items. So this one you know already, some function. So I have to just fetch the data from this particular item list. This will do the sum. And this is the list comprehension to delete the particular item. So for everything you need to do the separate functionality. And even in the string class also, even in the shopping cart also, I have to implement this string method because I have to print the data in the new line. Name of the product and price of the product I want to fetch and print on the new line, right? So this particular thing we are fetching from item class using string method. Again, this string method, what is the job of this string method? I should not call directly anywhere. Whenever I'm using print function, see here, whenever I'm calling print cart data, directly that particular function is called, right? So this is the implementation menu driven application you need to do based on the choice I've done. So you need not to print any menu name. I hope you got the clarity how to implement these kind of projects. So I've given you the glimpses of the code. So try to complete that. So similar kind of codes I'll be adding at least 6 to 7 programs you will be solving based on OOPS concept. So by end of the today, you will get another 2 problems I will update. And in tomorrow's lab, you can complete these programs. Right? Any doubt in this? So this is called a student again, student class. Sending 3 parameters. It has its own function study and information display. We are calling study class with the input as 3. Can anyone tell me what we are doing here? Student1.study. That means we are printing this data, and this is initialization. This is a display of information. So like this also I will add. Yeah, you can use match. You can use match function. And you have already done stack and queue programs, I hope. Here I'm showing you the example. This same course I will update. You can do it and practice. So I have a stack class here. Initially stack should be empty. I have created the empty class. Then push operation, pop operation, peek operation. Then checking whether the stack is empty, finding the size of the stack, printing the elements of the stack, right? So here what I'm doing, creating the stack class object. I'm pushing 3 values. So which function will be called here? This push function will be called. And that data we are appending in the empty stack list, what we have created here, stack.append.item. Then once the elements are inserted, we are calling these individual methods. We are implementing them. Pop, peak, is empty, size, right? So what is pop function is doing? We are checking whether stack is empty or not. So for that, we are having empty function. So see, for every access of the method, we have to use self. We can't directly call that functions. So to call this empty function, we are using the syntax as self.isEmpty. Then return self.stack.pop. If it is not empty, else we have to return none. Similarly, peak element means what? What is peak element? What do you mean by peak element in the stack? Topmost element, correct? So I want to find out the topmost element. Then you are calling using slicing. -1 means you will access the last element of the stack. So this you already know. And this function is checking whether the stack is empty or not. So we are checking whether the length of the stack is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, this condition will be true. Then this one is finding the size of the stack, length of self.stack. See, everything is accessed using self operator. So that's why I told you, when you work with the oops concept, the self parameter is very important. Suppose if you don't like this self, what is the modification you should do? Where is the modification you should do? You can change the name here. Suppose if you make your name here, everywhere you need to use that name. Then even for accessing the elements, I'm using self.stack. So this stack is the initialization of the constructor. Through the initialization, we are doing through the constructor. So a lot of such functionalities you can implement. Similarly, you can do queue. So stack I've explained you. This queue, stack and queue program I will update in the Moodle, which you can implement. Then there is this bank application. All these things I want you to do it in the Moodle. So this is a bank application. So a lot of large scale products can be developed with the help of OOPS concepts. So whatever you are understanding here is the syntax wise, or what is the how to implement. Yeah. You want snippets? I want to send, but people are not really working. Na? So if you are seeing the class, you can refer from the YouTube videos. But what I will send is this file I will upload. People are thinking our sir will sending everything. Let us study whenever we get free time. That's the only reason I'm not uploading the materials. If you are attending the sessions, definitely you will understand these concepts. So don't depend on the material, work on the logics, what I am explaining. If you get doubt, go through the videos once again, and you can refer this particular textbook, especially for OOPS concept. So now today you understood, right? Now you can click some examples here. You can understand what are the different type of programs they have given here. So visibility is a little bit less, but you can still understand. So they are calling eat function with this particular parameter salad. So this is inheritance they are doing. There is a class called as human. There is a class called as boy. Boy is implementing human class, right? And we are initializing this particular constructor boy, passing these 3 data, then calling the description function. Now we see the description function is not present in this boy class, correct? That means the printing work is done by the parent class, correct? The name of the boy, the gender, and the age. This part we have not at all written here, correct? But it is written in the main function. Then b dot school name. This is independent to that particular boy class. But the see common details are what are the common details for the student? Name, gender, and age. So this you can fix it in the parent class, so anybody can access that. What will be the change? Maybe the section will be the change, department will be the change. For that, you can implement the derived class. So that concept you need to have a clarity when and how these concepts can be applied. So now in the boy class, they are only using school name because school name might be different for each student, right? Each boy, the school name can be different. That they are initializing separately. Okay. So you'll understand here a lot of things. In the last class, I told you what is the importance of super class, right? Super keyword. So here we are having the girl class here. What is the code here? Just understand. In the case of activity function, we are calling the super dot code. The code method is there in the human class, correct? It is there here. And what you can observe here is the girl class also has its own code method. But what is the output we are getting on the screen here is I can code. But here, what is the content of the code class? I can teach. So when you are calling this activity function, g.activity, right? I don't want to call this code method. I want to call the method of the parent class. For that, super keyword can be used. So this is also possible. So understand the importance of, please note down this. When and how we need to utilize super keyword. Generally, this is used to access the parent class methods directly without implementing that. In this case, I'm calling description through the object, right? I have to create the object, then call it. But what is the difference here? I didn't create the object. I'm not using g.code in the calling here through the object. I'm directly calling inside the method called as activity. In the activity method, I am calling the code method from the parent class. So this saves some amount of time, right? So go through this until polymorphism. If you can understand polymorphism, prepare and come. Okay. In the next session, I will go with the remaining topics. Most importantly, polymorphism. And there is a concept of generator. Generators. You already know iterators. So your list comprehension is iterator, right? List comprehension is considered as iterator. So I will tell you the difference between generator and iterator. It is also a very important question. We will see the examples, some examples of the generators and how it is different from the iterators, along with polymorphism. And some more topics are pending. Exception handling also very important. Some 3 to 4 topics still need to be covered. We will see in the coming class, but I will try to give more examples in the model itself. So only when you practice with the codes, you'll get the clarity on this kind of examples. Fine. So I'll see you in the next session. I will complete 2 more programs so that you can practice tomorrow in the labs. Make sure you are completing these problems tomorrow only. Otherwise, you will forget these topics. Until you sit and work on these topics, if you won't get the clarity. Fine, we'll see in the next session.